Hey folks, Studio here. So today's replay is going to be very different. It's actually from IPL4. It is Monomaniacs versus Dignitas Game 3. And the reason it's going to be different is I don't have any replay controls. I can't speed up or slow down the game. So I've just kind of edited together, I can speak, some clips that represent both team strategies very well and kind of shows what happens. There's a lot of downtime in these games, and not being able to skip them and not having camera control would be kind of a double whammy of things not to do. Now, before we dive into the game, though, I have a couple of announcements. First of all, I had to clear my throat. Second of all, I won GoFroll yesterday with a team composed of me, Hacker V2, Inox, 4Not Tricks, and Cruiser the Bruiser. And that was pretty fun. It wasn't the most packed GoFroll because everybody was watching IPL4, but it was fun. It was fun. And the big announcement should be coming either tomorrow or Wednesday. And that is, going to be interesting. You guys have made some pretty good guesses at what it could be. None of them are actually close, but they're pretty good. I like to read them. They're fun to read. But that's for later. For right now, let's just go ahead and dive into the replay. So early on, we're going to focus on Mono strategy. Mono wanted to be aggressive. They wanted to make sure that Dignitas did not have a good early game, that it did not segue into anything reliable. And once they started going for these early Baron and early Dragon fights, they would not have any answer. And this shows with their initial invasion. Gotta say, Nintendo Dex has really, really good Riven jumps. He knows how to play Riven well. And that Riven CC, combined with Morgana, was enough to catch Skara. And that is the aggression that comes out from Mono. They want things to go their way. They will make them go their way. This starts a lot with Voyboy in top lane. They do not give Voyboy any breathing space. It's 3 minutes into the game, and he's been ganked. And the reason for this is Voyboy is very scary. If you remember, let's see, Hanover, Hotshot GG actually, after having lost to Dignitas, said Voyboy had one of the best Lee Sins in the game and had unlocked his secrets. And as you can see, Zion is doing a lot of damage top lane. He got that gank off, he got the gank off, and then he took Olaf to 3/4 HP, was just harassed later on. I mean, his damage is high. Even if he's missing his skills, he's really dealing it to Voyboy. And unfortunately for I Will Dominate and Voyboy, they can't gank him. They don't even use Exhaust because they know he has a ward. He's just going to place it down. He still has his flash up. They want to just deal some damage because they can't gank him. But Voyboy was the focus of Mono. They want to keep him down. They want to keep that pressure up. And it goes very, very well early on. As you can see, Morgana and Riven are coming up in the minimap, and they just do not give him that breathing space. Now, Voyboy may have gotten away here without Morgana, but they made sure that she was there to help kill him. And the question is, are they focusing too much on the top lane? Because the bot lane isn't going really well on either side. And do they realize that Dignitas' team is actually bot lane centric? My guess is no, because nobody realized it till about the 20-minute mark when Dignitas started kind of pulling back in these fights. But as you can see, the damage is really, really high for bot lane. Corki Tarek is really high. And Soraka comes in for these ganks. And this is just the perfect fight. They get the kill. They blow a flash on Zig. And that's great for Dig. But at the same time, you have to go, oh, well, you know what? It's 3-1. I mean, that happens bot lane. Voyboy died once again to a gank top. And the big problem Dignitas had right now is they didn't really know how to deal with Riven or Lee Sin. Like, as you can see, top lane, Mundo is fighting both of them, and it's almost 7 minutes in the game. It's not even 7 minutes into the game. And Riven is 6 with Lee Sin. That's a really, really fast level 6 Riven. And that is the big scary thing for Dignitas. They don't know how to deal with Riven. And they actually really start to lose some of their confidence. Like right here, Skara is a great player, and that is the only reason I would point out what happens here. But he gets CC'd, he gets ult up by Morgana, he knows he can survive. But he goes for this heal bait right here. And that was really kind of weak on him, because he didn't actually have the mana to follow up for the kill. Skara is an amazing player, and on Rise I know he wouldn't make that mistake. I think he really was feeling the pressure from Mono in that situation. Or it might have just been he hasn't played Soraka quite as much as other carries. But Voibo getting away from this gank is actually kind of important because it shows that Olaf, without items, without farm, can still use his ult. Now, I know that seems kind of obvious, but it means that the CC won't necessarily matter even if he's been underfarmed. And bot lane before, you could see that Janna was getting harassed down. She doesn't die, but the pressure is still high on bot lane. Now, I really like that escape. That is kind of the strength of Mono's team. They can just kind of escape a lot of situations. They're very, very mobile between Lee Sin, Riven, Janet with a speed boost. They can move around quite a bit. But that would involve Dig letting them get into those very mobile fights. And this situation right here, this was actually really interesting. You see Scarlet blow his heal because, not because like it was a mistake or because he was scared, but because he knew that if he died, they would get Baron. And he died, as well as Mundo, and they're going to get Baron. And the question is, well, what can Dig do at this point? Their team composition is not strong enough to really fight them at this point. Like, they have a very solid team comp that I'll talk about in a bit, but they're still behind 8,000 gold. And in a case like this, they just have to play defensively and look for an opening. If they find one, they might be able to come back, but I think what everybody thought right now is there's no way it'll happen. But I'm going to take this moment to say, look at the team composition from Mono. How much physical damage do they have? Everybody except Morgana. And then Dignitas has Soraka and Taric, who both have very big team armor boosts. Now, this is one of the fights that kind of shows that something could go wrong. Morgana gets a binding on Olaf, he gets out, and he ults. He doesn't kill anybody. I mean, he didn't really miss anybody, but they just can't kill him. Now, Voyboy and Locust are super low. Like, they're in a dead position, pretty much. But they still don't get those kills. And that's really kind of a bad sign. Also note, Paradoxical rushed to death cap, and this will come back to punish him. He already knows what happened with it. It's not good. But this engagement was right after the last engagement. Morgana ult is still down, and they traded Mundo for a Lee Sin, and Dig actually gets into this fight here, because they think they have advantage, and I'd say they might actually. But this is the kitey fight that I was talking about, that I showed Lee Sin getting away from that gank. These really, really kind of long fights are really bad for Dig, because just Mono is so much more mobile with their heroes, and their champions, champions not heroes, that they're just going to be able to catch them and kite them as long as they need to. And while that fight doesn't go perfectly, they still end up winning. Nintendo X cleaning up a Taric is... Poor Taric, poor Taric. But at the same time, this was actually a really close fight. And Mono does have a 14,000 gold advantage, and the fact that the fight is close is not a good sign. It is a sign of things to come. I think at this point they'd still be confident, but it's not good that they're coming out of these fights 2-0 with one person solo. Now in this engagement, watch the Olaf. The Olaf is the important person. Morgana hits 2 people with her ult, or 3 people. Olaf gets in though, and he gets to Zig. He does a ton of damage, and Zig is more or less melted by him. He's taken down incredibly low, has to play a little defensively, and he dies. And this fight went really badly because the people who need to get out or stay out were Olaf and Mundo. And Mundo does get ulted back by Janna, but Olaf can ignore that. Olaf ignores Morgana's CC, Olaf ignores the Janna CC, he gets the Ziggs. And what are they supposed to do there? They have to burn down the Olaf, but when that happens, he receives Soraka heals, he receives a lot of HP, and he survives. Now this fight, it actually kind of starts well for Mono. Olaf ult is down, but you're going to see the effect of Morgana without Zhonya's. Now, the reason he bought Zhonya's and Void Staff was because he was so far ahead, and he is their only source of magic damage, so he needs to really put out that magic damage. But the problem is, when you do this with Morgana, you're very, very squishy. And I mean, they're just kind of poking at each other. Graves ult right there didn't do a lot of damage. And if you look at actually Dig, they have 3 Ninja Tabi on their team. But this is where it goes badly for Paradoxical. This is kind of a sign of the item build coming into place. Morgana instantly dies. And this was the second big team fight they got into, the first one with an open ground. And this kind of says that, alright, you're ahead, you have ridiculous amounts of damage on your team, but we have armor, and even if you have a billion AP on Morgana, if we burst you before you can do any damage, you're gonna die. Okay, I guess a billion would be kind of an overstatement because she would kill everybody in the game instantly with her ult, but that is the weakness. They don't have anyone to survive, they don't have anyone who can deal a whole lot of damage. Morgana can, but they're gonna kill her. And Graves normally would, but they have so much armor. The Last Whisper helps, but does it help enough? And the genius comes from the Dignitas composition having Taric and Soraka. This is actually a tanky DPS team, but the tankiness comes from the Taric aura and the Soraka heal. Soraka heal giving about, I think, 150 armor, just over 100 armor at max rank. So once someone is healed by Soraka, they're not going to take any damage from anybody but Paradoxical. Add in the passive armor aura and the Aegis that they have on Dig, and they just don't deal any damage. Look at Corki survive. He goes down to almost no HP, gets a heal, uses his own heal, or I think uses a separate heal, and he survives. He doesn't take any damage from Lee Sin Kick. He's just so tanky because of all the armor on his team. And Mono's losing fights. They're ahead by 7,000 gold, and they can't kill anybody. And this was just the genius of Dignitas' team. They went, alright, they have a lot of physical damage, let's just build a lot of anti-physical damage. Ninja Tabi on a bunch of people, we'll go ahead and just get Taric at Soraka. And this is something very, very uncommon. Usually, teams with lots of physical damage you can't really deal with in a tanky sense. And here, they're just too far behind to deal any damage, which is weird because they're ahead. But the composition from Dig is just too solid, they can't kill anybody. That was actually a really good Morgana ult. She got the Zonias, she survived, and even with that, it's not enough. And how do you defend against this as Mono? How do you build defensively against all of this tankiness? They can't build armor because Soraka's there, and Corki does true damage as well as Olaf. Mundo has magic damage on his cleavers, and if they don't build armor and build magic resist or a lot of HP, then Mundo cleavers come into play and Corki's damage comes into play. And this was just a case of Mono not being able to end the game enough, even with their strong advantage, and Dignitas having the perfect mid-game composition. And well played. This was Studio. I hope you enjoy this, and this was just a test run, so see y'all later.